You're in a team meeting and your boss singles out your work for praise. Everyone turns to look. You smile, you nod, you say thank you, playing the part perfectly. But inside, a very different scene is unfolding. Your heart is hammering. A cold, quiet panic begins to set in, whispering a single terrifying thought. Any second now, they're gonna find out. They're gonna realize you're a complete fraud who just got lucky. And now, you have to spend the rest of the day, maybe the week, making sure nobody discovers the truth. It's like you suddenly become a double agent in your own career. Your real mission is no longer about the work itself, but about information control. You deflect praise, you attribute every win to luck, and you meticulously cover your tracks to avoid being unmasked. And the absurd secret you're guarding with all this effort, the terrifying truth that you are perfectly competent? It's an exhausting performance, and the psychological toll is immense. But if this sounds familiar, you need to know something. First, understand this. You are not alone. In fact, feeling this way puts you in some of the best company there is. This isn't a glitch in your character. It's a feature of a very particular cognitive architecture. And we're about to explore the hidden reason this system exists and how it can twist the very feeling of achievement into a signal of impending danger. It all starts with the way your mind learns to misinterpret your own success. This misinterpretation happens through what psychologists call cognitive distortions. Think of them as subtle funhouse mirrors for your thoughts. They reflect a reality that's bent out of shape, but feels completely true. For most people, success is a signal of safety and competence. But with this mental architecture, success can do the opposite. It can activate a threat response, flooding your system with a very specific cocktail of anxieties. There's the fear of being exposed as a fraud, the fear of not being able to repeat the success, and the crushing fear that this is the exact moment your luck finally runs out. This entire storm of feeling is fueled by one central, profound disconnect. It boils down to this: a profound and persistent inability to internalize your own accomplishments. The evidence, the promotion, the praise, the finished project, it all exists outside of you, like facts about a stranger. Your subjective feeling of inadequacy consistently overwrites the objective proof. Psychologists have a name for this experience: the Imposter Phenomenon. It was first documented back in 1978 by researchers Pauline, Clance, and Suzanne Imes. They weren't just describing simple self-doubt, they were identifying a distinct, repeating psychological pattern. Giving it this name was a crucial step, confirming that this is a real, observable experience, not something you're just imagining. And what researchers discovered next about its sheer prevalence is, frankly, staggering. Just how common is it? Recent studies, like one in the Journal of Behavioral Science, suggest as many as 82% of us will experience this at some point. That's not a fringe group. That's 4 out of every 5 people in a coffee shop or on a video call, quietly convinced they don't belong. And yet, the feeling is intensely isolating. This profound loneliness isn't an accident. It's a core feature of the psychological cycle that keeps the phenomenon running. This is what psychologists call the imposter cycle, a self-perpetuating loop. It begins with anxiety about a task, leading to either obsessive over-preparation or frantic last-minute work. You succeed, but instead of relief, there's an immediate dismissal. You tell yourself it was just luck, or that the extreme effort simply proves you're not naturally capable. Success is never attributed to ability, which traps you inside a constant performance where the applause never quite feels like it's for you. To put it another way, it's like you're an understudy who was accidentally pushed onto the stage for the lead role. You know all the lines, you hit every mark, and at the end of the night, the audience is on its feet, roaring with approval. But you aren't bowing. You're hiding in the wings, heart pounding, scanning the faces for the real star to walk in and expose you. The standing ovation, the flowers, the rave reviews, none of it feels like it's for you. It's for the character you're pretending to be. The applause never lands. But what is it inside us that's so convinced we don't deserve the part? The hidden truth is there's a voice inside you, a character. And this character has cast itself as the hero of your story with a very specific and very misguided prime directive. This character is your inner critic. And here's the crucial reframe. It's not a villain. It's a misguided bodyguard. Its prime directive is to protect you from the deep public shame of failure. And its method is relentless. It keeps you on high alert by ensuring you never, ever feel successful enough to let your guard down. It's an internal security system, convinced that the only way to prevent a future disaster is to constantly invalidate your present success. And this protective architecture has a very specific personality trait it feeds on. And this isn't just a poetic idea. This is documented psychological science. The American Psychological Association consistently links the imposter phenomenon to the personality trait of perfectionism. It thrives on impossibly high standards, because if the goal is absolute perfection, then every outcome will have a flaw it can use as evidence that you're not good enough. And to enforce these standards, it relies on a very specific set of mental tools. The two most powerful tools in its arsenal are cognitive distortions. First, there's all or nothing thinking, the voice that says, if this project isn't absolutely flawless, then it's a complete failure. Then there's its favorite weapon, discounting the positive, where any praise you receive is immediately explained away. They're just being polite. These aren't just random negative thoughts. They are the predictable output of a very specific internal operating system, which leads to the most important reframe of all. This feeling isn't a bug in your system. It's a feature. You simply have a different cognitive architecture, one that's high conscientiousness and threat vigilant. It's a system designed for survival, not satisfaction, and understanding that changes everything. So instead of fighting this voice, let's try a different approach: compassion. Imagine for a moment the sheer exhaustion of that internal bodyguard. It has been on high alert your entire life, constantly scanning for threats, convinced that one moment of relaxation will lead to your ruin. Its methods are clumsy, but its motive is protection. The goal isn't to silence this critic, but to understand it. But even with this new perspective, a cold, persistent question almost always remains. What if this time it's right? That's the ultimate fear, that this time the inner critic is right. But here is the single most reassuring truth about the imposter phenomenon. Actual frauds don't lie awake at night, agonizing over whether or not they are a fraud. The very presence of that deep, gnawing self-doubt is evidence of your integrity. It's the byproduct of high standards and a profound desire to be competent. So while that voice isn't telling you the truth about who you are, the common advice on how to deal with it is often just as misguided. The popular advice is to just crush your inner critic. But this is a profound mistake. It's like trying to fix an oversensitive car alarm with a hammer. You'll just break the entire system. The goal isn't destruction, it's recalibration. And that recalibration starts by understanding the very nature of how our brains are wired to remember threats over triumphs. This wiring is rooted in a well-documented feature of our cognitive architecture, the negativity bias. Your brain isn't designed to be a fair scorekeeper. It's designed to be a threat detector. One sharp criticism carries more weight than 100 compliments, because from a survival standpoint, the threat was always more important. Think about it. Which do you remember more vividly? The one sentence you fumbled in a speech, or the 99 you delivered perfectly? But this exact same architecture is also responsible for some of your greatest strengths. Let's reframe the traits that fuel this feeling. That constant self-assessment isn't just doubt, it's a deep-seated conscientiousness. The obsessive need to prepare isn't a sign of weakness, it's diligence. And those impossibly high standards are a powerful drive for excellence. This feeling isn't the opposite of success. It's often the shadow that ambition casts. This cognitive architecture is a double-edged sword, and it's crucial to understand how both sides of the blade actually work. The very mechanism that causes this anxiety is the one that so often fuels your success. That fear of being exposed, it's an incredibly powerful motivator. It's what drives you to prepare more thoroughly, to check your work one last time, to anticipate questions no one else sees coming. In a very real way, the engine of your anxiety is also the engine of your excellence. It's an exhausting trade-off, but it's part of the texture of being so good at what you do. So, if we can't just turn this engine off, how do we learn to steer? The work isn't to banish it forever. That's an impossible goal. The real work is to change your relationship with it, to build a new dialogue with that misguided, protective voice. Here is the first step. Become a data collector for your own competence. Create a dedicated folder on your computer, or even a physical file. Call it evidence. Your new job is to save every piece of objective proof that you are good at what you do. A screenshot of positive feedback. An email from your boss praising your work. A note about a project you successfully completed. This isn't for your ego. It's so you have hard data to present when your inner critic shows up with only feelings. Because with this file, you're no longer just arguing. You're ready to hold a hearing. When that voice begins its familiar whisper, the script changes. You don't fight it. First, you acknowledge its motive with compassion. I hear you. I know you're trying to keep me safe. Then you present your data. But here is the evidence that says otherwise. You're not trying to kill the feeling. You're simply invalidating the fear it's attached to. This practice is more than a technique. It's a way of making a powerful statement about your own identity. So let's state this plainly. You are not broken. You are not a fraud. You are a high performer with a very active internal security system. That feeling of being on the edge of your abilities doesn't mean you don't belong. It's often the exact texture of growth, proof that you're challenging yourself and stepping into a bigger role. And this realization invites one final quiet question about what real confidence actually looks like. So maybe the ultimate measure of confidence isn't the absence of that doubting voice. Maybe it's the quiet courage to move forward anyway, with that familiar voice in the passenger seat, not as an enemy to be silenced, but simply as a companion along for the ride. After everything we just saw, what's the very first piece of objective proof you would put in your evidence file to counter your inner critic? Tell me your answer in the comments below. Because that inner critic is just one voice, And in our next video, we're tackling what happens when you're trapped by the whole crowd inside your head. Subscribe and turn on all notifications so you don't lose access to the way out. Like this if you learned something, and share it with someone who needs this perspective.